Break the Board Sports. It's your boy RJ Cash. Click that like, hit subscribe. Giannis, he's finally asked out. Once out of Milwaukee, officially saying, hey, I want to find a new home. So now it becomes, where is Giannis's next home, right? What's the best fit? Where does he go? And how does that happen, right? What I want to focus on, though, before we get into that, is I want to focus on how did we get here? So the Milwaukee Bucks win an NBA title. Giannis is at the height of his game. And Coach Budenholzer wins the title. Well, they decide, it's not really good enough for him. So we're going to go with Doc Rivers. And I think the thing that is getting overshadowed more than anything in this whole thing is Doc Rivers, a guy that continues to be upheld as this great NBA coach, and all he's did is muck up everything. I mean, just think about it. This guy, we're holding him in regards for his time with the Boston Celtics, right? He had 3 Hall of Famers, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. And yet, everywhere he's been after that, he's been an absolute choke job and an absolute abomination to every franchise he's touched. He had a loaded Clippers team, didn't do anything. He gets Giannis and them after they just win the title a year removed, and all they did is get worse. Goes to Philly, had his time in Philadelphia. What did they do? They probably missed their window because of his coaching. So you can give me players, coach. You can give me whatever kind of BS you want to give me. But the reality is, Doc Rivers has screwed this whole thing up. And the front office of the Milwaukee Bucks, how he's still the head coach, is even crazier to me. And so Doc Rivers really flying under the radar, this great players coach. No, you had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. That's what you had, bud. That's what you had, right? And so it wasn't Doc Rivers. It was those dudes. You had 3 Hall of Famers. And since then, you've had perennial all-stars on every team you've coached, and you can't even make a conference finals, let alone a final. So Milwaukee's really screwed this whole thing up. So now where does he go? Now, obviously, everybody talks about the first choice is the New York Knicks, but the Bucks, they need a lot of young players, and they need draft picks. Knicks don't have either one, right? Knicks kind of sold the farm for Mikal Bridges, sold the farm there on getting Anunoby, right? So the Knicks have really kind of cornered themselves high cap already. So if you're the Bucks, I don't want Bridges. I don't want Karl Anthony Towns, right? So Giannis may want the Knicks, but the Knicks don't have enough to offer. They just don't. There's nothing there for the Bucks. If you're the Bucks, listen, if you're the Bucks, this is your last chance. If you screw this up, Milwaukee, you will be a dead franchise just like you were before Giannis got there, because the only thing you had when Giannis got there before Giannis was Ray Allen, and you let him walk out the door, right? So got to be very careful. Now, there's also been some things about the Golden State Warriors, right? Golden State Warriors. Maybe you have, maybe you got, Steph Curry. He wants to take another shot, right? Maybe Jonathan Kuminga. You can package a deal with him. But the problem with this could be, can the Warriors afford to give up their draft picks? Like, how much more in the tank? When you think about this, how much more in the tank does Steph Curry have? How much more, right? Because you can go wager for Giannis, but here's another thing with Giannis. He hasn't been the healthiest guy on the block either, right? So when you're looking at that, you got to be very careful. You can't go wagering a run and then it not work out. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. You're going to be even more trouble. Now, Golden State got most of their future picks. They only have to give away one top protected pick to the Wizards. Other than that, maybe you partner Jimmy Butler up. But again, if I'm Milwaukee, Kuminga doesn't excite me. Jimmy Butler doesn't excite me. Now, the Heat, that's been another one's. They're kind of the same way. Tricky spot for the Heat. What do they have to offer, right? So they can't trade picks from 2026 or 2028 because of the whole Terry Rozier thing. The Bucks, they don't have a pick in 2029. So you're probably looking at the Heat could package a deal, but you're talking about 2029 till 2032. You're talking about 3 to 6 years before you could see the payoff for Giannis. That's a long thing to sell, but maybe the right thing to sell, right? Unload some cap. Another thing, they got the Kyle Kuzma. They got to get rid of him and his number, right? They got to unload some of this stuff. Now, what are potential Band-Aids? Potential Band-Aids? Spurs, right? I mean, if the Spurs could keep Castle, Vessel, which I think would be hard to keep them both, De'Aaron Fox, Wemby, and Giannis, that's the best team in the league. They're winning the finals. I don't care. They're the best team in the finals. But do they have the assets that they can do that? Do they have enough picks they can do that, right? When you look at the Rockets, they got the young core, Amen Thompson, Sengun, Reed Shepherd. If I'm the Rockets, I don't want to get rid of any of them. Durant isn't long for the haul. So you got to look at that. The Lakers, they only have one tradable first round pick, right? That's LeBron, he's either going to have to walk to another team or retire. So yes, Luka and Giannis would be great, but the Lakers, they don't have anything to offer, right? Now, I do think there is some legs there for obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder. And this one gets a little tricky. But the Thunder got all those draft picks. All those draft picks. I mean, they got a ton of draft picks. So with that, could they really pull this off? I mean, if you're the Thunder, think about it. If you have SGA and you can keep Williams, I'd be willing to part with Chet Holmgren. I'd be willing to part with that, right? So if you just look at just straight up from the betting market, right? 24% saying the Knicks. I think the Knicks, again, I think that's a really hard sell. I think that's a really, really hard sell for the New York Knicks. I don't know how they pull that off. I know that's what a lot of people want to see, but there's got to be some reality. Now, the Heat 3-1, Knicks 3-1. Then you got to go to the Warriors 7.5-1, and then the Hawks, Raptors hanging there at 10-1. I think the Raptors are very interesting. The problem is they got a lot of nice young pieces, but they're always hurt, right? So again, Milwaukee's got to be very, very smart. Milwaukee needs an overhaul of picks. I mean, so many picks that it just sets them up. So I think the Thunder are a dark horse in this, right? I also think the Spurs are a dark horse in this. Again, if you're the Spurs, if you can have Giannis, Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, and keep Castle, forget Bessel. Fox, Castle, Wemby, Giannis, that's where I'd like to see him, is with the Spurs. The Warriors, they would have to mortgage their future away forever. I just don't know if that makes sense. Pop down in the comments, where do you think Giannis ends up? I'm going to say the San Antonio Spurs is where Giannis Antetokounmpo ends up. RJ Cash, Break the Board Sports, giving you stats, trends, information to help you with your handicap, whether you fade or follow. Hope you guys win your bets. God bless and happy handicapping.